Welcome to the Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast, where we're all about helping healthcare professionals like you create positive change at work, at home, and everywhere in between.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast. And I'm Klaus, a practicing physician associate and certified professional coach, helping healthcare professionals and leaders rediscover balance, purpose, and joy to live a more fulfilled life. And let's start with reality. How many of us set ambitious goals back in January that now feel completely disconnected from your current reality in healthcare? Gillian. We're halfway through the year, and I'm curious, when you look at these goals you set 6 months ago, do they still fit the person you've become after you've experienced this year? Today, I'm joined by energy leadership and positive intelligence certified coach, former occupational therapist, and clinical and human resources leader with expertise in people management and conflict resolution, Gillian Faith. Thank you, Gillian, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So let's kick this off, Gillian. What's the biggest shift you've noticed in your priorities since the beginning of the year?
The biggest shift in priorities, when you ask me that question, the first thing that's coming up is things are always changing and always moving. And I think we're always having to adapt. And we may set ourselves goals at the beginning of the year, which is really great because if we set goals, there's a much greater chance that we're actually going to achieve them. However, life happens and things change at work. And I believe we have to have some flexibility to tweak them as we go along. And if they need to take a different direction, then we have to be real about that and we have to actually make the shift.
Yeah. So the adaptation part is, I think, huge. And I think that's where people struggle a lot is they see the goal, they know the goal from what they created back in January, but then they're like, I'm not achieving it. What's wrong? And then they start to get into this like fatigue and exhaustion and overwhelm and anxiety. And they're like, okay, I'm going to keep procrastinating just because it will happen eventually. And then the progress gets halted. And I find that to be a huge thing. So adapting to be like, okay, that goal might need to be shifted a little bit. Maybe it's not actually what I want. Maybe it was something that I thought I wanted, and go back to reflect on that. Is it what you want? And if it is, what's going on? Where's the roadblock? Because I think if you haven't made progress in the past 6 months, there's definitely a block. What's that block?
Yeah, absolutely. And the block could be a limiting belief that we have about ourselves and our ability, or it could be an interpretation that we have of circumstances that's actually holding us back.
Yeah. Gillian, I don't know, have you read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Yes, it's been a while, but yes.
It's been a while, same for me. But one thing that always stuck out of my mind from reading that book, and I think it makes really good sense, is when you think of goals, though they're great, oftentimes we're thinking about the outcome and the result, and we're not thinking about the process getting there. So we're not developing a system. And the system, which is like getting the engine going, having sustainable habits that oftentimes are multifactorial. They don't just help you towards getting that goal, but they help you with other goals as well in other dimensions of your life. So if you're having a health goal, it may help your finance goals. And so remembering that, I think, has been a huge thing for me when it comes to mid-year reset, is kind of thinking about, like, am I creating a good habit or habits that create a good system towards that goal? And remembering that the goal should just be natural. It should naturally happen as a result of the systems that you're creating. I think one thing that I once heard was that if you have a good system and you're enjoying that process, the goal is just the natural side effect of it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, Gillian, we know healthcare changes rapidly. Our environment can be toxic. It could be very fast-paced, very stressful, and overwhelming. How do you help your healthcare professionals navigate the guilt that comes with sometimes abandoning their original goals as a result of these circumstances?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the reason that the goals are not being achieved. And is it because the goal was too lofty in the first place? It's nice to have a stretch goal so that we can push ourselves a little bit. But sometimes that may be unrealistic. And like you say, healthcare, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stress and there's overwhelm and sometimes our goals are not being achieved because we're simply exhausted at the end of a workday or whether we have too many things going on at the one time. So I think for some people, I think they have to give themselves some grace. Sometimes it's okay if we haven't met a goal. It means that we've been doing other things, or like you say, something's getting in the way, there's a block. So I think giving ourselves some grace and maybe standing back from it if we can, and actually thinking, is this actually realistic as we move forward into the second part of the year?
Yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
I also think with goals, and I've done this myself before, it's easy to set goals that either there's too many of them or there maybe it's going to be hard to achieve. So then we criticize ourselves for not reaching them. And in some of the coach trainings and in positive intelligence, you mentioned that earlier, they talk about what is an easy next step. So if we have a lofty goal that we've set and we don't quite know how to get there, we ask ourselves, what is the next best step or the easy next step? And if we keep taking small steps, eventually, if we can stay consistent, we will hopefully get to the bigger goal that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think you named it, that a lot of our healthcare professionals are often setting stretch goals, long-term goals, overarching goals, however you want to name it, and not breaking that down into more short-term goals, more small, achievable steps, which
Correct.
as coaches, we are very big on, is helping you break down that big overarching goal into those small baby steps, which is what it takes to get to that. If you're not taking a small inch, a small baby step towards that goal and trying to take that big step, A,
Mhm.
you're skipping the process and the journey.
I
You're not
agree.
building the sustainable habits in the system to really keep that goal at the top of your mind and
Mhm.
sustainable. So that goal might be weight loss, for instance. Are you just going to get to the weight loss? What's the number? And once you've got there, are you planning to stay there? If you don't have the process that supports that by making those baby steps and enjoying it, if you don't enjoy it, then you've got to reconsider if it's something you really want to do.
Yeah, and sometimes it helps to have somebody to keep you accountable. Now, it could be, for example, a coach like you or I, but it also can be a colleague at work that helps you, maybe checks in now and again, or maybe you set up a system where you check in with each other once a week to see how things are progressing and help each other get to the goal. And I think also sometimes we can have blind spots. And so we can't always see them, and sometimes just talking things over with somebody helps us see if there's blind spots that we're not taking into account.
Oh yeah, I agree. The reflection back and
Mm.
hearing somebody else say the things that are important to you and the steps that you've been taking can highlight a block that you maybe have never noticed.
Right.
And one thing you mentioned, I think, is very important with anything of goals that could be the issues that many people who are listening from their January goals, they're having issues, is the accountability. If you're not keeping yourself accountable, yourself, which is very difficult for some people. I myself has struggled with my own accountability. So using a colleague, using a friend, using a coach, using a therapist, whoever it is, a team, a
Mhm.
community to keep you accountable, if you're not using them, you're missing out on something so important that could really be life-changing for you in achieving this goal and creating that system in place. And that's
That's
why
right.
our MedThrive community is thriving right now, is that we have a team of healthcare professionals who are communicating with each other, sharing goals, sharing ideas, sharing the processes that they're currently doing, and seeing how other people are tackling certain similar things and gaining perspectives. And then when they say what they're doing out loud, they're more inclined to do it. And as coaches, we push you to have very smart goals, very specific, measurable, action oriented, relevant, and time oriented or bound. So we use this holistic approach to help, but the community is huge.
Yeah. And like you say, writing them down or sharing them or speaking them helps with the processes in our brains and helps us actually stay on track or more committed.
Yeah. A lot of my healthcare clients, I find that their goals are often aligned with what they think or should have as goals versus what is truly authentic and what they truly want for themselves. What question did you maybe ask somebody to help identify which goals are truly theirs versus the goals they think they should have?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Klaus. And I think it can end up being quite a big conversation. And the first thing that I would ask somebody, or first thing I would work with somebody on is what are their values? If they can align their values with where they're going and what the goals are going to be, it's going to feel way more authentic, way more on track, and hopefully get them to where they want to be. And I think it maybe takes out that, well, here's what I should do. So, and let's be real, there's going to be times when we have to set a goal for ourselves and it doesn't feel great, but it's something we have to do to get a new certification or achieve something that we need for a promotion at work. And we may have to put in extra effort.
It's funny because I think Lily has talked about this in prior episodes. Lily's our founder of Transforming Healthcare Coaching, and how many of us really in healthcare, unless we've used a coach or we've been in some kind of well-being wellness program, don't really know what our true values are, haven't written them down, said it out loud. So values work is huge. And I think another thing I also sometimes do is challenge people in a way of asking, like, straight up, how much of this goal is what you created versus what you're seeing on maybe on social media, on TikTok, or your friends or your colleagues. And a lot of times this shows up, and the challenging doesn't happen immediately because unless you get to know the person, as you mentioned, it takes time to kind of develop that, and that conversation needs to be really broken up. And it usually takes after you're working with a client and realizing that they're not taking those steps that they say they're going to take by the end of the session. And then you meet with them in 2 weeks and it's like, no, I didn't do it again. No, I didn't do it again. And the why of it sometimes is unclear. And sometimes you just have to challenge somebody and say, you signed up to work with me to become a leader in this organization. How much of that is what you actually want with everything that's going on? And it's tough. That is not an easy conversation to have with somebody,
No,
right?
it's not. It's not. And it might also not be a conversation that gets completed in one session with the client. It might take 2 or 3 or 4 sessions to actually figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. And when people are thinking of their goals, always have that in the back of the mind is how much of this is your goal or how much of this is a goal of society or stereotypes or of your friends, your family, colleagues, your job. And if it's not aligning with your who and your why, then maybe it's taking some time to consider what's that next step.
Yeah, and what else is coming up for me is as energy leadership coaches, we talk about what energizes us and what drains us. So I think that's important to think about with goals. If you get energized around something, you're going to do a much better job of achieving that goal versus something that feels like hard work and actually drains your energy and drains your motivation.
Yeah. As energy leadership coaches, we love energy and
Mhm.
knowing where your energy is on the things that you do every day or when you're under stress, but also the things that you love. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Our founder, Lillian Liang Emlet, could not make this episode, but she did want to share with our audience a few things that she considers during a mid-year check. And she thinks about a few things, and I would love to share that with you guys. So she asks herself, how do I want the rest of the year to look like? And so she likes to vision the wins and plan for success and the great things ahead. She likes to do a self-retrospective look. She makes an example here in the project management world that we've been very lucky enough to learn and take some of the cues from the agile project management concept of retrospectives, which boils down for her to three main questions. What worked and went well the first half of the year? What didn't go so well? and what we learned from that. And what small improvements, tweaks, and adjustments will we make moving forward? And I'll share the digital project manager down in the links below for those who are interested on this model.
I love that
Okay.
because we're thinking back to what didn't go well, but we're using it as a learning experience. What did we learn from that? And in the positive intelligence world, we talk about in any situation, there's a gift or an opportunity. So even if we feel like we've failed with something or we haven't met the goal, what can we learn from that? And what is it telling us? What information can we take to help us move forward?
Yeah.
So even in something that doesn't go as well as we want, we can take some gift or opportunity if we really look at it.
Yeah. There's a gift to it all. And there's a reason it hasn't been happening. And I think that is a hard thing that we all struggle with when a goal is not being achieved, or we think back now that we're in a mid-year reset to be like, oh, I'm so defeated, as you mentioned. If you think of it as there's a gift and a reason for it, and that you can take that gift to propel you forward, you've learned something. Learning is so much fun. That's why we're all in healthcare. We love to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Klaus, something else, if I may add, that came up in one of the sessions that I was involved in a few weeks ago, and they talked about the blinking lights. So we all have little blinking lights along the way in our life and we kind of ignore them. But what if we actually listen or take notice of what these little blinking lights are telling us? And if things are not going as planned, what are those blinking lights in our line of vision that may be giving us some clues as to maybe this isn't the right thing, or maybe we should be doing something a bit different? So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I love that. Something that you don't always pay attention to. It's there,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yes.
And I think what came up for me when you said that is, what's your intuition? Like, it's your intuition. What is it telling you? And kind of trusting a little bit of yourself, that kind of hitting guide within yourself, saying something's off or something's propelling me in this direction.
Mhm.
To kind of just listen to that and explore that a little bit further.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So as we come to the close of this episode, Gillian, what would you like to say to a healthcare professional who's listening right now and feeling like their goals from January are completely off track?
Oh gosh. If you're at all interested, I would reach out to us and have a conversation and see if it's something that we can help you with. And definitely would love to talk to anybody who is in this situation.
Sometimes people need help with these goals. I need help with these goals with my coach. That some of the goals that I have, these big overarching goals, even as coaches, we struggle ourselves with breaking down big overarching goals and having to constantly shift and adapt them. And sometimes it really helps to have a accountability partner, but somebody who specializes in guiding in this process. I think makes it fun too.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's nice to have a thought partner. And as you're talking, procrastination's coming up for me because I'm a great procrastinator and I've tried to overcome that. And so there's reasons why we procrastinate, and that's something as coaches that we can help with as well.
yeah. And one thing that came out for me is thing that we actually talked about that I never actually realized is that when I'm talking through my goals and making progress towards my goals with my coach and talking it out loud, and then I don't accomplish a process, or I'm feeling a little bit defeated, it's so much easier to bounce back because my coach is so able to just turn it around and be like, okay, what's next? Whereas if I was by myself, I'd be like, okay, like you mentioned, I'm gonna procrastinate. I'm gonna say I'm gonna give that goal maybe next January when everybody else is creating their goals, to look at this again another time. The summer's hit. I want to be at the beach, and I think that's an ever evolving process. At least here in New England, is that we're like, okay, in January we'll look at this. If we don't make progress by the summer, we'll have to relook at it in the January.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, Klaus, that sometimes we don't realize how much progress we've actually made
Okay.
towards a goal. We don't maybe take the time to really think about what we have achieved. So again, working with a coach can make that process, like you say, more fun, but give us more confidence in what we're doing going forward.
Yeah, I think in this episode we talked a lot about goals that may have been abandoned and why they're not happening. But look at the progress that you may have made in that in
Right.
this it since today in June.
Right.
Like, take a look and be proud of some of the work that you may have done. And even if it didn't lead to where you want to be right now, you've made steps. Was it fun? Was it enjoyable? What parts of it were? What did you learn from it, as Lily mentioned and you mentioned? Right. So if someone wants to implement just one thing from our conversation today, Gillian, what would you want it to be?
I would always say, what is the next small step you can take that helps move the needle in the right direction towards whatever goal it is you're trying to achieve?
Love that. And for me, it's reflecting back and asking yourself, am I actually enjoying the steps I am taking towards this goal? And is this goal going to bring me the happiness that I actually want? Is it what I want?
Fair
So
point. Yep.
have fun with it. We at Transforming Healthcare Coaching hope you are continuing to make these strides towards your goals and your system, and wish the best for you and hope to see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for joining, Gillian.
Yeah. Thank you, Klaus. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share with a colleague who would benefit. Together, we can transform healthcare one person at a time. Find us anywhere you find your podcasts. Ready to take your healthcare leadership journey to the next level? Book a discovery call free at transforminghealthcarecoaching.com to explore our personalized coaching packages designed specifically for healthcare professionals like you.